They came from nowhere and destroyed everything in their path. Entire empires crumbled, cities burned, and the ancient world changed forever. But who were they? And why did they vanish without a trace? Today, we unravel one of the greatest mysteries in ancient history, the secrets of the Sea Peoples. Imagine a world of glittering palaces and bustling trade routes, great empires like the Hittites, Messenians, and Egyptians dominating the Mediterranean. For centuries they fought, traded, and built a complex, interconnected world. It was an age of bronze, an age of empires. Then, out of the sea, came a force no one expected. A mysterious confederation of warriors, origins unknown, motives clear, arrived in fleets, their sails blotting out the horizon. They were not just raiders, but entire migrating peoples, bringing families and possessions, seeking a new home and prepared to burn the old world to find it. The established powers were caught off guard. Panic spread as enemy ships appeared on the horizon. Desperate letters from kings like the ruler of Ugarit begged for help that never came. The old order, with its rigid hierarchies and powerful armies, was unprepared for this mobile, relentless threat. The impact was swift and brutal. Entire civilizations wiped from the map, great cities reduced to ruins, trade collapsed, literacy and art vanished in many regions, plunging them into a dark age. The architects of this chaos would be named by their last and most powerful victim, the Egyptians. They called them the Sea Peoples. Their arrival marked one of history's greatest turning points. The world of the Bronze Age was shattered, and history itself seemed to hold its breath. The storm from the sea had begun. To grasp the shock of the Sea Peoples, picture the world they shattered, a sophisticated, interconnected era around 1200 BC. The Hittites, Mycenaeans, and Egyptians were linked by trade, diplomacy, and war. Raw materials like copper and tin traveled vast distances, fueling the Age of Bronze. This trade built temples, palaces, and tombs, and scribes corresponded in Akkadian, the international language. It was a world built on order and predictability, but beneath the surface cracks appeared. Climate change, drought, and famine threatened the palace economies. Social unrest grew as grain stores emptied, forcing migrations and creating waves of refugees. The great empires became vulnerable, and when the Sea Peoples arrived, they struck a world already weakened. The collapse was a domino effect. The fall of one power destabilized the rest. The Hittite Empire's fall created a power vacuum. The burning of Mycenaean palaces halted Aegean trade. The interconnected system crumbled as each part failed. The Sea Peoples were the catalyst, delivering the final blow to a magnificent but fragile world. The Bronze Age ended not with a single event, but with a cascade of disasters. The old order was gone, replaced by chaos and uncertainty. The world would never be the same. Who were these mysterious invaders? Sea Peoples is a modern term, drawn from Egyptian inscriptions describing foreign enemies from the sea. The Egyptians saw them as a coalition of tribes, not a single nation. They were a coordinated military force, challenging the greatest armies on land and sea. Our main evidence comes from the mortuary temple of Ramses III at Medinet Habu, where epic battles are carved in stone. The inscriptions mix propaganda and history, boasting of victory while revealing the scale of the threat. Ramses III describes a grand alliance. They had already devastated the north before turning to Egypt. The Egyptian texts list tribes like the Peleset, Djeka, Shekelesh, Denyen, and Veshesh, each with distinct clothing and weapons. The Peleset, with feathered headdresses, are often linked to the Philistines. The origins of these groups remain debated, pieced together from linguistic clues and archaeology. The Sea Peoples remain figures in the shadows, known only by the terror they inspired. By 1177 BC, Ramses III faced the ultimate crisis. As the Sea Peoples threatened Egypt, his temple at Medinet Habu tells a story of heroic defense against overwhelming odds. Egypt was the last bastion of civilization. Ramses III mobilized the state, fortified frontiers, and prepared for a decisive battle. He describes a two-pronged invasion. The Sea Peoples advanced by land with families and by sea in a massive fleet. The climax was a spectacular naval battle in the Nile Delta, depicted in vivid temple reliefs. Egyptian ships trapped the invaders, archers rained arrows, and marines fought hand to hand. On land, Egyptian chariots charged the Sea People's warriors. The pharaoh is shown as a heroic figure, leading his forces to victory. The invaders, including the feathered Peliset and horned Shurden, are depicted routed and captured. Ramses III claimed a crushing victory. Egypt survived. But it was a Pyrrhic victory. The war exhausted Egypt's treasury and military. Though the storm was repelled, the new kingdom was mortally wounded. Egypt would soon enter a long decline. The age of empires was over. The true identity of the Sea Peoples remains one of history's great mysteries. Egyptian reliefs give us names and faces, but not origins. The Peliset are widely linked to the Philistines, their feathered headdresses matching later depictions in the Levant. The Shurden, with horned helmets, may be connected to Sardinia, their name echoing the island. The Denyen could be the Danans of Homeric Greece or from Adana in Turkey. The Shekelesh might be linked to Sicily, though evidence is thin. The Cheka are thought to have settled at Dor in modern Israel. The Sea Peoples were a coalition, displaced Greeks, Anatolians, raiders and refugees. They were a symptom of a collapsing world, not a single ethnic group. Unmasking them means understanding the tangled web of cultures unraveling at the end of the Bronze Age. Why did the Sea Peoples migrate and attack? There's no single answer. Historians point to a perfect storm of factors. Climate change brought severe drought and famine, devastating palace economies. Starvation and unrest forced people to abandon homes, creating waves of climate refugees. Systemic collapse followed. As empires fell, thousands of displaced warriors and artisans banded together. These were not distant invaders, but the disenfranchised of the collapsed empires. Advances in shipbuilding and weaponry gave these groups a military edge. The breakdown of the old order allowed warlords and pirate confederations to thrive. Violence and opportunism became the new currency of power. The Sea Peoples were both victims and agents of change, exploiting chaos to carve out new futures. Their migrations reshaped the ancient world. The Sea Peoples' trail is written in fire and ruin across the eastern Mediterranean. Archaeologists find a consistent pattern of destruction around 1200 BC. Great cities burned, never reoccupied. In Greece, the Mycenaean civilization ended abruptly. Palaces like Mycenae and Pylos were sacked and burned. Writing was lost for centuries, plunging Greece into the Dark Ages. In Anatolia, Hattusa, capital of the Hittite Empire, was abandoned and burned. Ugarit in Syria was destroyed, its last tablets desperate pleas for help. The devastation swept south along the Levantine coast, destroying cities like Megiddo and Lachish. Ancient trade routes were severed and old empires shattered. New peoples and kingdoms, Israelites, Arameans, Philistines, rose from the ashes. The world that emerged was poorer, fragmented, and forever changed. After their defeat, the Sea Peoples vanished as a confederation but didn't disappear. They settled and assimilated. The Peliset became the Philistines, settling along the southern coast of Canaan. Archaeology shows a new culture in cities like Ashdod and Ashkelon with Aegean influences. Other groups like the Cheka settled at Dor, establishing city-states. Some were absorbed into local populations, their identities fading over time. For others, like the Denyen and Shekelesh, the trail goes cold. The Shurden may have reached Sardinia, influencing its culture. The Sea Peoples were a temporary alliance, dissolving as new opportunities for settlement arose. Their legacy lived on in the Iron Age cultures of the Mediterranean. The storm passed, but its impact shaped the world to come. 3 millennia later, the Sea Peoples remain one of history's greatest mysteries. We know them only through the eyes of their victims, never their own words. Their story warns us that no civilization is immune to collapse. The factors that brought down the Bronze Age, climate change, migration, systemic weakness, still resonate today. Modern science is uncovering new clues: DNA from Philistine graves, chemical analysis of pottery, underwater archaeology. Each discovery adds a piece to the puzzle, but the full story remains elusive. The Sea Peoples are a reminder that history is full of missing chapters waiting to be uncovered. As long as questions remain, the search for the truth behind the sea peoples will continue. Like and subscribe for more travel history mysteries.